Vampires that suck blood may be fantasy, but we get damn close to real life-sucking monsters when we take a clear-eyed look at the phenomenon of billionaires. Did you know the rich only exist because they've robbed you? Did you know serial killers tend to have fewer psychopathic traits than billionaires? Where do you think all that money they're hoarding came from? Billionaires are one of the worst possible outcomes for humanity, the planet, and the well-being of all living creatures. If we call billionaires what they are, we already know this. Oligarchs. In NATO countries, oligarchs have long been pariahs, but I challenge anyone to find a real difference between a billionaire and an oligarch other than possibly their native language. Billionaires have been created by late-stage capitalism's failure to balance the economy in any meaningful way. Since the dark days of Ronald Reagan's presidency, the U.S. has fallen swiftly down a rabbit hole, dragging most of the world alongside it. As those with the most money wield their formidable power, they steal the voices and lives of those they must step on to attain their ludicrous heights. This video will first explore what created this catastrophe and how it's perpetuated. Then we'll examine the facts proving these points while investigating how billionaires directly hurt you and everyone you love daily with their greed. Finally, we'll wrap up by talking about how the rich are the reason you're not wealthy yourself, how the middle class, as it were, was destroyed by a type of power-hungry, money-grubbing individuals who put profit above anything and everything else in the world, and we are paying for it. As someone born in 1980, I consider myself part of the Xennial generation. Through this channel, I aim to explore the world from the unique perspectives that we possess. My videos showcase my philosophical understanding of the subject, supplemented with verifiable facts and information to back up my beliefs. If you disagree, I welcome your thoughts and opinions in the comments section. As always, there are chapters in the description that will let you skip to any section you want. If you're new here at the Xennial Philosopher, thanks for checking out some of my content. I hope you'll return soon and continue to expand your perception and grow your mind alongside me. How billionaires were created. This section is split into two parts. The first will explain how we got here and how fundamentalist Christians, the ultra-wealthy, and their puppet president Ronald Reagan created the current horrific economic conditions in modern America. The second part of this section is specifically about the traits required to become so powerful, looking at how one must eliminate one's humanity and empathy to succeed and thrive as a billionaire, or more simply, how evil are billionaires and how do they perpetuate their fleecing of America? Ronald Reagan and the evil of fundamentalism. Many people go straight to Reagan as the evil that instigated America's financial issues today, but propaganda is a powerful drug. The deified Ronald Reagan was just a man. His only natural talent was acting. There is little to no evidence that he was intelligent, let alone some mastermind of the proportions so often attributed to this deteriorating old actor. He, like most politicians, was just a face, a voice, a person on which to impose the mantle of leader of the free world. The reality is a lot more nefarious. It's a story of straight-up corruption from evil people doing everything in their admittedly ample power to gather as much for themselves as possible. To begin with, let's look at how this all started and why the wealthiest in America were so determined to change the laws and government structures. In the 1970s and most of the 20th century, you paid a hefty tax if you were in the highest tax bracket. Well, let's clarify this a little with the help of a very informative blog post by Wolters Kluwer. Federally, income taxes were first created in 1861 amid the Civil War. And that was a simple, flat tax applied across the board. It wasn't until the passage of the 1913 Revenue Act, the 16th Amendment, that tax brackets as we know them today were created. After these tax brackets were put into place for the nation's top earners, the percentage of their taxed income rose steadily for decades to the peak that ran roughly between 1941 and 1981, where these wealthiest Americans were taxed at 70% or more. While I'm sure this seems like a lot, that's just because you aren't a billionaire. When your income is in the millions of dollars a year or more, there's no way to spend that money, only to hoard it like a dragon from a high fantasy novel. If we stop and look at this from the perspective of an extremely wealthy person, of course they want to gather as much as possible for themselves while giving as little as possible to anyone else. This idea is antithetical to America's founders' rightful intention that the wealthiest would help keep America's infrastructure and less fortunate safe and healthy. Assisting the general population was exactly what happened for several decades. The extra income that the U.S. government took in from this tiny percentage of the country allowed them to initiate and finish some of the most significant public works in history. Things like the Hoover Dam, the Brooklyn Bridge, the interstate system, and many human-made lakes. On top of this, early industrialists and wealthy magnates were known for pouring their wealth into public works like bridges, colleges, schools, and countless other things that improved life in America. And this is what made the country appealing to many and created the lauded American dream. Unfortunately, the 70s saw a rise of two separate movements that ended up being co-opted by the wealthy to push their agendas forward. The first of these groups was the Republicans, who fell hook, line, and sinker for all the stories and ideas that Reagan's campaign touted. You know, he was the original Make America Great Again president before the orange blob we had a few years back. Anyway, the wealthy people who put Reagan forward meshed well with a large and growing political movement of Christians called the Fundamental Christian Right. And they loved Reagan, as they recently proclaimed their love for another actor turned president, maybe criminal. I'm not going to go into the wrongness of a tax-exempt entity having such a heavy hand in politics, nor will I go much further on Reagan, but suffice it to say that these two groups had synergy, and using it, they put their man in power of the US and quickly got him and his advisors and puppet masters to put their plans into action. Banking, the money markets, overseas funds, and tax regulations changed drastically within a scant few years. Everything flipped from the pre-Reagan state, and all this was done under the thin, flawed, and surprisingly sticky concept of trickle-down economics, which, for a reminder, claims that by giving most of the money back to the wealthiest Americans, the extra cash would somehow trickle down to the middle and lower class people who actually needed the money. Of course, this blatant and horrific lie has stopped millions of Americans from attaining anything resembling a comfortable life. And I am not talking about being wealthy or famous. I'm talking about having a reasonable existence with an hourly wage or a blue-collar job. We'll get into how the ultra-rich are ruining your life shortly, but let's wrap this part up first. In conclusion, the ultra-rich in America hijacked the government and bent its services, rules, laws, and various entities to heavily favor the wealthiest, while at the same time stripping those same rights and benefits from the rest of America. Ronald Reagan is most definitely evil. And if he had any idea what he was doing, he's on the level of some of the world's worst people. But don't forget that the people pulling his puppet strings were far more guilty and knew full well that their actions would only help them while making life harder for the vast majority of the country. To pull something off like this, you sure as hell can't sleep at night unless you can silence your conscience. In the next part of this section, we'll look at the traits required to be so heartless. I mean, wealthy. Traits shared by billionaires and murderers. If you want to accumulate generations of wealth for yourself, this can be done in two ways. One is impossible with today's technology, but that would be to build a fully automated robotic mining operation to harvest the minerals in the asteroid belt to accumulate vast wealth. But in the 2020s, we don't have anything even close to the tech one would need to mine the asteroid belt. So that leaves all billionaires one way of accumulating more wealth than a person could even theoretically save in 10,000 years. That is, to steal it. To understand this, pretend for a moment that you're a billionaire who wants to maximize profits and minimize any loss to your direct income. In that case, the best and only way to do this is to pay as little as possible for help, do everything in your power to limit benefits, and squeeze maximum efficiency from every employee. If you want to continually show quarter-over-quarter growth, the lives or livelihoods of a few thousand people every day is a small price, especially when you don't have to see or interact with these subhuman creatures anyway. It takes practice, or an exceptional kind of person to ignore the needs and humanity of all other people entirely. I feel bad if I cut someone off to get to an exit, even if I use my turn signal and didn't cause any harm. Most people would feel bad telling someone they were fired, had lost their income, and were on their way to homelessness. But somehow the most wealthy and powerful make choices all day, every day that have real-life implications for thousands of people. But they also appear surprisingly well-rested. Shouldn't their consciences be nagging at them? The psychological makeup of a typical billionaire is a complicated topic. And in the description is a link to a Psychology Today article that breaks down the science quite well. But in short, psychologists believe that a dark triad of traits is required to be a heartless CEO or billionaire playing with people's lives. This triad is a terrifying mix of Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and narcissism. These traits evidently let people sleep at night and not have qualms about making life and death choices for other humans all day. From what I could find, even the worst serial killers have maybe a few dozen victims. Billionaires impact that many victims every day. Be it the gardener or programmer that they fired in a rage earlier because they weren't fast enough, or the children working in a factory making their baubles more cheaply so they can squeeze out a few more cents of profit to line their pockets. I know I sound angry, and part of that is because I am. How can someone do this kind of stuff to other people? When I think about the harm that they do to other humans all day, every day, I start to think about those French revolutionists who wanted to eat the rich. Well, that would probably take care of this crop of evil in the world. Undoubtedly, there are more than enough bad apples in humanity's bucket that those power vacuums would be refilled almost immediately. The following section will examine how the rich rob you to grow their wealth. In this section, we'll look at how life, in America in particular, has drastically changed as a direct cause of the thieving actions of the uber rich. We'll also examine how wages have hardly changed for the non-rich, while the rich earn more with every passing fiscal year. How the ultra-rich ruined life in America. There are a handful of ways that the rich have ruined your life, or at the very least the life of someone close to you. How do I know that? How can they do that? I will answer both of those questions in this section. Unless you're a billionaire watching this to see what the unwashed masses are thinking, I can promise the ultra-rich are screwing you over with each passing second. I know this because you probably have a job, and your wages are far below what they should be today. In the 1970s, pre-Reagan and the fundamentalist Christians, CEOs generally made 20 times the salary of their average workers, or simply a 20-to-1 ratio. In the ensuing 50 years, you can see how executive pay has skyrocketed, reaching a 399-to-1 ratio in 2021 from their average employee. So this means CEO compensation has risen 1,460.2% between 1978 and 2021, and that is adjusting for inflation. In that same time, worker wages did rise a whopping 18.1%, far below even the inflation rate of 320% since 1979, let alone other increases in the daily cost of living in 2020's America. Another way I know these ultra-rich are trying to kill you is because you have a body. With the possession of a body, we all need health care. Did you know that health insurance is a scam created by the wealthy to make more money from you and trap you into having a traditional corporate job that will provide you with health insurance? As any of you who have used this insurance will well know, they don't care about your health or your costs, only that they make maximum profit. Billionaires are trying to kill you in another healthcare-related way. Massive corporations are buying up hospitals and private practices as fast as possible to create profit from traditionally community, not-for-profit healthcare facilities to line their bulging coffers further. The last thing on their mind is the people who will not get proper health care, and it's, like always, all about that all-powerful profit over everything else. I am confident that billionaires are trying to make you homeless because you are a person and people need to live somewhere. That means you either rent or own, which means you probably already know that ultra-rich people and corporations are doing everything in their power to make your ability to have a place to live as expensive and difficult as possible. They do this by using their ludicrous amounts of cash to buy up any rental property in the country and colluding with other wealthy landlords to maximize everyone's rent. If you own or want to own, it won't take long to learn that buying a house is expensive and challenging. And there is a damn good chance a holding company like Blackwater will swoop it out from under you using an all-cash offer. Once they own the property, they will gladly rent it to you for far more than your mortgage would have ever been, even with high mortgage rates. I'm confident that the ultra-rich are decimating you in 100 other ways, but I'm sure you get the picture here. The same tactics are being used against you to steal as much of your money and value as quickly as possible. Just look around. You'll see their grubby fingerprints on virtually everything in the world, like farming, energy, education, and 1,000 other industries. And that is a big problem for ordinary people. But I promised also to tell you how they're doing this. How do the powerful ruin lives? The good news is that the answer to this second question can be boiled down to two words: power and influence. But if you've seen my other videos, you know I won't leave it at that short of an answer. Once Reagan's masters managed to flip the tax on the ultra-rich from 70% to 30%, a bunch of them got a taste for growing their wealth beyond even their expectations. And like any addiction or compulsion, there was no going back from there. Since then, we've watched the country reduce taxes on the wealthiest, give them payday protection loans, which were another kind of trickle-down BS, and generally make every rule and regulation to ensure that they maintain, and of course grow, their power while ensuring few, if any others, can attain their lofty heights of power. In addition to removing taxes and penalties for the wealthiest Americans, they devised ways to cut public support programs, cut funding for virtually everything that helps the public, like education, infrastructure, welfare programs, and others, as well as finding new ways to subtly add new taxes on the rest of America in the form of predatory mortgages, underhanded banking practices, and astronomical student loans, among a litany of other programs that have helped to push more and more of America further into debt and below the poverty line. For a few surprisingly apt references, we can look at television from the era before the decimation of the middle class was completed. For example, watch the Fox TV show from the late 1980s and beyond called Married with Children. In that show, Al Bundy is a middle-aged shoe salesman who owns a home, supports 2 kids, and supports his stay-at-home bossy wife, Peg. This is not a fantasy made up by television back then. A person working a regular job like a shoe salesperson could afford to live an average life, buy a home, have a car, and not be constantly stressed about money. Another excellent example comes from the most beloved animated television show ever made, The Simpsons. This is another show that first aired in the 1980s and was written by Matt Groening, who grew up long before Reaganomics ruined things. The Simpsons portrays a regular working guy, Homer Simpson, who can afford a home, 3 kids, and 2 cars and seems not to worry about money. This paradigm, as shown in modern episodes of The Simpsons, is far-fetched fantasy. But when Groening dreamed Homer up, it was not a fantasy. Millions of Americans like that worked at grocery stores, barber shops, power plants, or even worked as teachers, but were more than capable of providing a comfortable life for their families. Unfortunately, America's wealthiest and most powerful have worked hard to literally steal that possibility from the country. And it's hard to see a way to back out of this conundrum. Still, we will explore some possible options in the conclusion. In conclusion today, we'll explore some of the ways that people have fought back against greedy and evil oppressors in the past and wrap up with a review and conclusion to this video. Without forgetting, as someone born in 1980, I consider myself part of the Xennial generation. Through this channel, I aim to explore the world from the unique perspective that we possess. My videos showcase my personal understanding of the subject, supplemented with verifiable facts and information to back up my beliefs. If you disagree, I welcome your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. How people have fought back against oppression. Greedy people have ruined multiple societies over the centuries. There were related problems in ancient Greece, Rome, and even the famous French Revolution falls into this category. Revolts against the uber rich are not always bloody and rarely require actually eating the rich, but every time in history that regular citizens have decided that they have been oppressed enough, they had one thing in common: unity. Whether it is the peasants revolting against a wasteful and mean king, a full-blown military coup, or savvy use of collective bargaining and protest, in each and every case, the people being oppressed had to band together to take down the tyrants they opposed. One of the most modern examples occurred in the United States during the Industrial Revolution. Unions are a great example of how collective bargaining can peacefully balance injustice. Before the first unions appeared, people had to do whatever their employers told them and had to take whatever they paid them. There were virtually no safety regulations or worker protections at all. Once enough people were fed up with this treatment, they banded together to form a union with all the workers, who together had as much or more power than the owners. This gave them bargaining power, bringing on the golden age in America for the middle class. For a time, anyone, no matter how educated they were, could find a job that paid a real living wage that let them have a home, 2 cars, 2.5 kids, and even take yearly vacations. So people have fought back against the ruling class countless times throughout history. Sure, after every change, the wealthy will work to bring things back into their favor, but it isn't fruitless. It's more of a tug of war between the ultra-wealthy and the average citizens. It seems that we are beyond ready for another revolution to swing the power back into the hands of the population and out of the few influential people that currently run the world. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire video, and I sincerely hope you learned something today that will help you have a better life. Please don't let the subject matter in this video or any of my videos get you down. We live in a society, and if we find a way to work together and help some people come to their senses, we all have the power we need to fix things. If you feel motivated to do something, check out the links in the description to find articles and sources that helped me write this video. What did you think about these concepts? Do you plan to learn more from the resources below? Did you hear something that you'd like me to do a full video on? Let me know in the comments if your interest has been piqued by any of the subjects covered here at the Xennial Philosopher. Check out the references and links to related videos and articles in the description to learn more about this video's topics. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, don't forget, you won't want to miss out on new videos to expand your mind and grow your perception.